reaching out and calling someone you personally don't know, you're prospecting. And yeah, that could be an existing account. That could be a company your company's already working with. This could be post-sale if you're an account manager. You could be a marketing person trying to secure an interview with an existing customer. If they don't know you personally, you reach out in any way, I would argue you're prospecting. Mainly because that other person doesn't have real obligation to call you back, doesn't have anything other than your message to call you back or to email you back. So it's a pretty big issue. Virtually anyone who's customer facing in any way has to be challenged with this idea. So we spend a great deal of time in a pretty cool technique that we call Why You Now, which is designed to answer this very question. How do we get someone we don't know to give us meaningful engagement and actually get connected with us so we can start a sales process? And the technique itself is actually quite simple. It's a 3-sentence technique. It's predicated on 3 ideas. What can we say about the prospect that's meaningful and specific and real and personal and flattering? And then in the second sentence, how can we somehow link whatever we've just discovered about this prospect? How do we link that back to us and our company and our values and our product and our offering? So we make this nice connection between something that this customer, either as a person or their company, does, and then something that we do and where we might fit in. And then in that third and final sentence in this 3-sentence approach, we construct a very specific close, because we're going to ask for something. We're going to ask for something, hopefully, that's something we want, something that's kind of easy to get, and we're going to structure it in a certain way called an open-ended question. And for many sales reps, these are terms that you're well aware of, but for new sales reps, we'll teach you that as well. And that's the technique. Very simple. Just because it's simple doesn't make it easy, because that technique I just shared with you, as obvious as it might sound, kind of flies in the face of what most of us do in a typical cold call. The sales rep isn't really prepared to understand what they're trying to do. This is about awareness. This isn't about selling. This is not about getting meetings. This is not about establishing value or establishing rapport and trust. This is about getting engagement. Because when that woman, Denise, picked up the phone, she was not expecting a call from you. She was expecting a call from a variety of people that are very important to her, that all know her. So the moment you said, "Hi, this is Jeff calling, how are you?" she recognized immediately, I don't know you, therefore, this is not very important to me. So while you keep talking, Mr. and Mrs. Sales Rep, I'm going to be thinking about all the different ways that I can end this call gracefully and nicely, but ultimately to move you off. That's the bad news. Good news is, that little exchange I just showed you, that's about 10 or 15 seconds. The good news is, no matter how badly a call goes, your first touches, they are about 15 seconds long. So the good news is you get runway. You are going to get a 15-second place to land this plane. What do you want to do with it? This why you now technique is designed to show you what to do with it. And although it's very simple in structure, it takes some time and some practice and some thoughtfulness to figure out how to do this. Starting a sentence by saying the company's information as opposed to your own name, well, that's unusual. And that's kind of the things that we do in our program. So many of what we share is contrarian, and not contrarian just to be different, but I think contrarian because most of us are doing things the wrong way, because sales, as I say frequently, is not instinctive. And prospecting is definitely not instinctive. So once you learn these techniques and get a chance to practice them in the program, and one of the fun parts about our engagements, whether it's a workshop or a keynote or a public speech or even a seminar that I'll do at different MBA programs or on corporate sites, is that when we're done with the practice, we try it out live. So instead of doing your typical role playing with things like this, we'll try this technique out and then get to a position where we have this technique solid. We'll actually have the sales reps get on the phones and talk to prospects live with the attempt of actually trying to get these connections to happen. So you'll know immediately if this technique will work for you or not. And ultimately, instead of that 3 or 4 or 5 or 6% response rate that's so problematic and troublesome, we're going to shoot for something in the neighborhood of the 20 to 35% response rate, which is really great. Because if you start to think about, hey, I can get an executive referral or executive engagement on a cold call 1 out of every 3 dials or 1 out of every 4 dials, that becomes a pretty measurable thing you can attack, and it's worth attempting. It's worth making it part of your day. We'll get into things like gatekeepers. We'll get into things about how to get around an existing lead. We'll talk about EAs. We'll talk about voicemails. We'll talk about how to get an email address and how to get a voice phone number if you don't have it handy and you don't know how to get them. So we really, really break apart this mystery of how do we get someone we don't know to get teed up meaningfully in our pipeline. And it's an exciting program, and I'm looking forward to sharing it with you if you take advantage of any of the different places that we offer it.
I think the entire training was beneficial, but I think the aspect that was really best was the concept of why you, why now.
going to the candidate and telling them why I thought they're interesting, and then finding out about why they might be a fit, and helping them get to the point where they figure out why they might be a fit. It's very customer focused versus people talking about their product the whole time. It's really about, okay, who's on the other end of the email or the call that you're talking to. So that shift right there is fundamentally different. And as a lazy sales rep, it's a lot easier, quite frankly. So it makes it easier to be repeatable and get more activity out the door.
You sent this 3-liner, and I'd say everybody in my class was able to communicate with the person that they were hoping. Like, I literally got an email back from the CEO in that class. He said, many of you will actually get responses. I think most of my class got responses. You know, he's got a bunch of tools and techniques that just work.
We definitely had the conceptual background. Jeff provided a good framework for things, but then it was the practical application, the practical steps of, if you do this, this is what will come out the other side. And that was really the point of separation for Jeff's training, is you received the high level, the 30,000-foot level view, but then there were specific steps of, when I go back to my desk, this is what I'm going to do.